Hello everyone, welcome back to the Anarchy podcast. Today we're here with CirocDrip, and we're here with co-host DigMC.
Yeah, hello.
Hello everyone. So CirocDrip, when and how did you find 2B2T?
So I joined 2B2T in March of 2019, and I heard about it from one of my friends who I played Rust with named Sway.
Nice. And you, how long have you been playing Rust?
I've been playing Rust since mid-2016, so yeah, a good while. I have 2,000 hours in the game.
Yes, sometimes people actually compare Rust to the FPS version of 2B. Would you say
it's very similar? It's very similar.
In what way? Are there factions and shit, or?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Depending on the servers and stuff that you go into, you can go into modded ones where they don't care if you cheat and shit. There's some, I guess you could call them Anarchy servers that are like that. But yeah, I mean, it's basically Minecraft but with better graphics.
Yeah, nice.
My computer keeps lagging every time I play Rust.
You gotta have a good PC to play Rust.
Moving on. What groups are you in?
So the main groups I'm in are Infinity Incursion, Teutonic Order, Imperium, and the Brown. So obviously Infinity Incursion is my main overall group, and I am the current co-leader of that. So basically what we go through and do is we have, the occasional spawn project and stuff. We built the biggest handmade spawn symbol on the server. And then we also just do a bunch of other bases and stuff. Just a big group of friends having fun together pretty much. And then for Teutonic Order, that's another group I am a co-owner. And basically it's more high strung, I guess you could say, but we basically go through and it's more just base building and having fun together. And the most notable thing I've done with them was help build the 0-0. And then obviously, as we all know, Imperium, that is currently, I'd say, probably the largest group on 2B, or largest and most active group on. And, I'm just there building bases, making friends, having a good time. And then Brownman, Brownman came about after the book club disbanded, and it's led by Steve 3, House 1, and G-Smack. And it's basically just finding new exploits, testing new dupes, just a bunch of different shit like that.
So you've been in a lot of groups.
Quite a few, yeah. Above all, I value connections in 2B. It's I argue they're probably the most influential thing you can.
And how many friends do you have from those groups?
Quite a few. It's hard because I have a lot of people that I'm accomplices with, but I have 5 or 6 people that I'm really, really good friends.
And what would you say overall, if there is one, what's your favorite group?
It's hard between either Imperium or Infinity Incursion, just because Imperium, it's a massive group of friends. We all have great times together building bases and stuff. And Infinity Incursion, because it was my first major group and led me to the point I'm at today. So I couldn't pick between the two if I had to decide, honestly.
Yeah, nice. And moving on from that, what is your history with the Infinity Incursion?
So I joined the Infinity Incursion after it allied with the Teutonic, and I joined I think it was August 30th. And in the beginning, I just really was in the group just screwing around and having fun with Baki and VC. And after a while, Patch, who was the current right hand of Baki at the time, had to leave just for IRL issues and stuff. And starting to get really close to Baki at that time. So he was hey, do you want to come and be my co-leader and right hand? I was yeah, of course I want to do that. So he gave me the job of building the Infinity Incursion spawn symbol, and that was my quote unquote test to see if I was good enough to be the co-leader and everything.
And can you give us some of the finer details about the spawn symbol, how long it took, how many people worked on it, how much obsidian?
So the exact amount of obsidian used was 589,000 obsidian. So we just rounded up to 600,000. We started planning the project in it was September 15th or something. And we actually started working on the project on November 3rd, and we finished it on November 10th. And that was, I think, around 5 or 6 people constantly working on it. We used no schematics. The entire outline was done by Iron Exception. Massive shout out to him. And he did all the renders for us as well, and that turned out fucking amazing. I'm extremely happy with the end result of it.
Yeah, that's a lot of blocks.
It was a lot of blocks. Yeah. My favorite thing about that, though, had to be that, because it was, at that point, the group was still, like, a really tight-knit group. Like, it hadn't, quote-unquote, gone mainstream yet. So it was just, like, 5 or 6 of us in VC. We'd have on, like, some lo-fi music, and we'd just all be sitting there shit-talking with each other and having a good time just building. And it was really fun.
Interesting.
It's like, you'd think that it would be repetitive sitting there placing 600,000 blocks, but it actually went by really quick.
Yeah, that's surprising. You guys did that in like such a small time frame.
Yeah, it's crazy though with the Masonic Eclipse. How that was. Granted, it was baritone bots as well, but still 28 million blocks in the same amount of time it took us to do 600,000. It's absolutely insane.
What's your history with the Teutonic Order?
So the Teutonic Order was like my first group, or not my first group. It was my first like large scale group that I joined, because my first original group was a group owned by Gujon called the Melanie, and I joined that, and I was in that for like a week or two, and then I found out that the Teutonic Order was enemies with, and I had gotten contact with Takeouts, and I was like, hey, I'll inside the Melanie for you if I get a rank in Teutonic Order. He was like, all right, cool, whatever. So I went through, I gave him like 2 bases and like one little stash that they had that was like 15, 20 shoulders of shit. And I joined the Teutonic Order from there and just rose my way through the ranks, and now I'm pretty much the co-leader of it.
Interesting. And do you guys have any plans for that group?
Yeah, so recently, just because of like Takeouts inactivity and stuff, the group has like become stagnant. But we recently just went through and like purged all of the members and stuff. So we're hoping to get back into activity here, especially with everybody having the 3-week break.
Yeah, nice. And what do you think like separates both Teutonic Order and Infinity Incursion from other factions?
So in my eyes, Teutonic Order to me is just another faction, but it's a faction that is near and dear to my heart because it was my first group. But Infinity Incursion, in my eyes, is like, I don't really ever think that anything else has been done like it before, in the sense that our original idea was that we were like going to be the quote-unquote prep group for going through and setting up in case like YouTubers and stuff had games. Like we would be like a prep group for an actual incursion, again, if it were to happen, or a purge, whatever the hell you want to call it. It's all the same thing. But after going through and doing all that stuff, we realized, hey, this isn't really a good way to keep the group alive. So we, over time, have transitioned the group into more of like a actual group rather than the prep group that it originally was meant to be.
Nice, that's pretty sick. And moving on, we're going to get to a pretty fun topic. So, what's with the BSB scandal between you and Imperium?
Ooh, where to start?
Run us through start to finish.
Yeah, so this originally started back right before I had become the co-leader of the Infinity Incursion. And at that point, I had just joined, or I was messaged by Jumpy to join the Imperium. And I was like, all right, cool, I'll do that. So I joined there, and I had been a Sigma for about 2 weeks when I was approached by Baki, who had asked me to, at that point, inside the Imperium for BSB. And I told him that I was interested because at that point in my career, I was, a nice way to put it is desperate for power, I guess. But now I'm, obviously, I don't really care. But anyway, so I was approached by Baki and asked to inside them for the BSB. For a while, I had went through and done that, and I don't remember if BSB ever got a base out of it, but they might have gotten like one. After that all happened, I had been in Imperium long enough and I was starting to make friends and stuff, and I was like, I really don't want to continue inciting Imperium because I actually really enjoyed being in the group. So I reached out to a mutual friend and asked him on advice to be like, what should I do in this situation? And he told me there's either two options. Either you go nuclear and give BSB all the bases, or you go nuclear and fuck over BSB and Baki. So it took me like 2 or 3 days, but I weighed out my options and I eventually decided on sticking with him. And that led to us being, me and my mutual friend, having to essentially coup the Infinity Incursion and get Baki out of there, because he had at that point kicked us from the group and he was extremely upset with us, which is completely understandable in his situation. But we had to go through, and I hate to say this because it makes me sound like shit, but it is what happened. But we had to coup him to get the Infinity Incursion back on track to where it was. And that led to, obviously, BSB hating me, and it took a while for me and Baki to get back to where we were originally.
Wow.
Yeah, nice. I think that sums it up pretty much. And I remember being in BSB and we kind of hyped up this whole, like, in December we were going to fuck over Imperium and shit. And then you just went and, like, fucked us over. And yeah, that was pretty gay. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, it happened. It's over now, but IMIMS is probably never going to get over it, let's be honest.
Yeah.
You've been doing tons of projects on the server, right? Is there any projects that are not well known?
Not well known. I would say it's hard really not to have an unknown project when you're working on like a large scale, such with, for example, Sato's Pedo LARPers video and the Infinity Incursion spot. But some of the more, I would say, unknown projects I've been working on is, I've been working on something else with Sato called Project Anarchy, which I can't really go into detail because I don't know what I'm allowed and not allowed to say, but basically it's going to be another video that he's making that I'm like working very closely with him on. And something else we've been working on as well with me and the current leader of the Infinity Incursion is something called the Hermit Project, which is just going to be a massive group base. So yeah.
And yeah, the next question. So, what would you say is your most like memorable or like favorite thing you've done on 2B, or like your best memory on 2B2T?
So I would say it's in between working on Spook Base 3, which was the last Infinity Incursion Spook Base for Halloween, or making the Spawn. Both of them just because being able to like spend my time in VC with that close group of friends and just having a good time with them building. And as well as just being able to make those memories of that being like one of my first large scale projects, being the base and the spawn symbol respectively.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's pretty wholesome. So yeah, best memories usually are like just, I don't know, it's just like just chilling with your friends really in VC.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, what's your history with Sato 86?
Ooh, so I originally messaged Sato and posted a comment on his YouTube video for the No Regrets Now video after Solar had come out and made a video attacking Sato. And this was like Sato's response saying that he was going to make a full-on response. And I messaged Sato and we got in contact and I showed him what was proof of Solar, Hama, and not at the time, but afterwards we found out that Mr. CK was as well, but they were all pedos and or sharing some form of CP with each other. So knowing that, it was basically just using that to get in contact with him, and then going through, we obviously went through and made the pedo LARPer video, and that led into some of the other projects I'm currently working on him with.
Sato 86 even, he messaged me before about the Pedo LARPer stuff. Basically, he wanted me to upload the video if it ever got taken down from his channel because of like false strikes and stuff like that. He asked some other YouTubers as well.
Yeah, it's good that that video needs to stay out there. So that's obviously a sizable chunk of like some of his history and modern history rather. But you know, working for Sato has definitely been an experience because he's interesting to talk to. Because like obviously knowing his history and everything, he's just interesting to talk to. Like you could go back to asking him about like what happened during like some of the early incursions and I've used that personally for inspiration with some of the stuff I'm working on with Infinity, and as well just learning more about like older 2B history, and that's just extremely unique stuff to know about.
Imagine. It is always cool talking to big old fags because I don't know, they just tell you stuff that isn't like common knowledge. That's, like all the shit that's been written down. They kind of give I don't know, they all each give a unique perspective on like the big events that, people like Fit MC talk about and shit. So
yeah, definitely.
And going back to the pedo LARPer video, how do you think he played a crucial part in like creating that?
So the video originally had two parts. It was the first part that was the response to the entirety of Solar's video, and then the second part, which was the actual pedal LARPer. I think without my input into what had happened, I don't think there would have been the second part for the pedal LARPer section, because I was the first one to bring that to attention with Sato, and I have to thank Catholic Kavanaugh, because he was also the one that provided me a substantial amount of proof for Solar and Hamma being pedos, and as well as eventually finding out about Mr. CK, because he was the one that led the 2B2B EB club and other nasty shit like that.
And what would you say to people like me and other people in BSB who kind of knock the video saying that, they're just trolling, or it was just jailbait? Like, what do you say to those?
Even if it was just jailbait or they were just trolling, they were still putting it out as advertising it as CP, which in my mind is still extremely fucked up and shouldn't be allowed. Like, people like that are fucking disgusting, and they deserve whatever's coming to them.
Oh yeah, of course. All right, nice. And would there be any information you'd like to tell everyone that wasn't actually in Sato's video? Like any proof or anything, just anything that you didn't mention that you think might be interesting?
It's hard because sizable chunk of the proof that we had to censor it out. So there was no way we could really bring across the true depth of what had happened without showing it, and obviously we couldn't because the video would have been deleted. But another thing is that the video was originally meant to be in 3 30-minute parts, so it was going to be like an hour and a half in total. But I told him, I was like, there's no way that's going to happen, because people have zero attention span when it comes to watching videos. So, he ended up sending us different portions of it over time, and we would watch because it wasn't just me that was involved with it either. It was also people like Catholic Kavanaugh, PR Thomas, and a few others. And all of us each provided different bits of information and whatever else we could to help make the video the best it possibly could be.
And what do you think, if at all, the impact was from that video on not only Solar or Hammer or MRCK10, but on the servers community as a whole? Do you think people meme a lot less now about CP, or do you think it didn't really change?
I hope to God they do, as it's fucking disgusting if they do still. Other than that, I feel like I've definitely seen a lot less presence from Solar and Hamma, which is really good, as well as obviously Mr. CK left the Imperials completely, just because I don't know if he was completely bullied out or left on his own.
I'm pretty sure the members just went against him.
Yeah.
Even in the comments they say they don't have involvement with pedo LARPer stuff. I was looking right now.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like the video was extremely impactful in the community, just because one, it not only showed the darker side of 2B itself with that kind of stuff coming to light, but as well as being able to expose them for what they had been up to.
Yeah, and on the sort of topic of YouTube, what's your general perspective on YouTubers on 2B?
In my eyes, there's two different type of YouTubers on 2B. There are people that come on to 2B to make a profit off of it and get quick views, quick likes, etc. And there are people that make other impactful videos on 2B. So, for example, obviously people like Fit, Tapel, others, etc. I don't really remember too many, but they all come on for the quick views and stuff. And especially people like Fit, because my main issue with him is that he is extremely scummy about the way he does his content.
In what way?
For example, recently with the monastery griefing video that he released for because that was like the it was the base that lasted around 8 years or so on.
Yep.
But the way he had gone about it was that he was on the archive getting footage, and I had some other friends join the server, and they were talking at the time in chat. And he messaged him. He was like, "Can y'all shut the fuck up? I'm trying to record a video."
Oh my god! Like, dude, are there any screenshots of that?
I would have to message them and see, but I could definitely see if I could find that.
Please see if you can get that.
But yeah, like just that, and as well as him going through and whether it's like lying to people about how his content is and like over exaggerating it to the extreme. Like, for example, with over-exaggerating it, we all know he over-exaggerates his videos, but the main one that I had an issue with is that the quote-unquote day 2B2T almost died with the original backdoor.
Oh, good.
In that video, obviously, he goes through the entire thing, and at the time, or no, I wasn't around then, but I messaged Jared a while back and asked him about it. He was like, yeah, like 95% of that video is entirely false, and gave me like a comparative history of what actually happened.
Yeah. If you want to know what actually happened, in Jack the Ripper's podcast on the Anarchy podcast channel, I think if you watch like the second half, he actually explains in depth like the shit that happened to cause that.
Alan, there's like not that many YouTubers who actually like tell the actual story of 2B2T.
Yeah. The main thing I dislike about FitMC isn't really the fact that he exaggerates shit. It's mostly that like he presents 2B2T as more of a like just by having his videos, you know, completely monetized and open to YouTube as being PG and shit. I think it sort of advertises 2B2T to new players and kids as a friendly sort of server you can just kind of get up and play, and you know you don't need to be careful on or whatever. And I think that is bad, especially since, you know, there's some dark shit that happens on 2B.
Oh, 1000% there is.
Yeah, and I think him advertising that to kids is kind of sus. So yeah.
Yeah, and another thing too that you mentioned with him like advertising it in that way, just for the way he goes about doing it too, like him, like because he has his Discord server and obviously has multiple thousands of members and stuff, and just the way he goes about either getting access to the content and having people give it to him or whatever, it's an extremely scummy way of doing it in my eyes.
And moving on from this, what's your opinion on the 2B2T queue, and how do you think YouTubers have affected it?
Overall, I think the queue system is good the way it currently, but I feel like the way House goes about doing priority queue is wrong. What I mean by that is like, obviously, yes, you have how priority queue is, and it's $20 and you get access to a special priority queue monthly, but I feel like there should be like another tier up that's like more expensive and more exclusive to get access to, like how, for example, how the old veteran queue was back in after 2016 post-brush. Other than that, I feel like for the YouTubers that come on, I have really no problem with them, other than the fact that it makes me have to wait an extra 20 minutes to get into the game. It's just a slight annoyance, but I understand the reasoning for coming on and all of that stuff.
Dr. Enter Pickles, he made a podcast recently about Joey Coconut, which was an old player. He said he wished like veteran queue was still a thing.
Yeah, I saw that podcast. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I feel like I don't really know what would be a valid point in time for it to be quote-unquote veteran queue still, if you want to still keep it pre-Russia, or if you wanted to move it to like pre-Etika. Yeah, there definitely should be, like, for example, another tier, whether it's a veteran tier or just another higher paid tier version of priority, just to make getting into the server easier.
I think the reason he got rid of it was mostly because a lot of old players and veteran players, because obviously pre-Russia, I think there'd been like 80,000 different accounts that had logged on to BTT at least once. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people were selling those accounts for like a few thousand or like a few $100, and he got triggered at that. And also at the time he removed priority queue, like mid 2017 or something. 2B was at like a really low point in player count, and like he needed basically as much money as he could get, to be fair. So it probably did make a bit, you know, it was probably a good decision on his part. But it just sucks that now it's gone, because, you know, he could easily bring it back, and I think that would be pretty respectful. But yeah.
And that's the reason why old players don't really play on 2B2T anymore, you know, the queue.
Yeah, definitely. with the money sink, as well as having it be 30, 45 minutes, sometimes up to an hour, hour and a half to get in to actually play the server. It's a massive time sink to get in. And I completely understand why, for example, old people or old fags, rather, as well as other people would not want to play 2B just because the queue is extremely long. And I feel like something needs to be done about it.
And do you still play on 2B2D?
Pretty much daily, yeah. Like, I still love the game, but my favorite part would definitely be more of like the group politics side, so much for what would be going on rather in Discord rather than what actually happens in game. But I still do definitely enjoy what's going on in game and stuff.
And what do you see yourself doing on 2B2T in the future?
I don't really see myself stopping, honestly. Like, with obviously coming up on my 1 year anniversary here on playing on 2B here in 4 days now, so it's the 15th, I really don't see myself stopping. It's like, I've constantly feel like I've been quote unquote going up in the ranks rather, and I haven't seen myself really slow down, and I want to keep playing. I enjoy the game.
Yeah, I know this is really hard to predict, but where do you see yourself on 2B2C in like a year?
I feel like with continuing on with some of my projects that I'm working with, for example, with like Sato and Infinity Incursion, and currently I feel like my momentum has definitely slowed down from what I was like a few months ago. I'd still see myself just hoping to continue to go up and become hopefully more and more of a respected player.
And is that sort of your end goal on 2B to be well recognized and be well respected, sort of?
Yeah, so like originally when I had found out about 2B, I had played it for about a month or two at that point, and I found out about Fit and some of his videos and stuff, and so I watched through some of those, and I made it like some of my goals for my time overall on 2B was to like own or co-own a massive group, which at this point I feel like I've accomplished. And the other one was to hopefully one day get into the Spawn Masons, which I am still working on, but obviously it's extremely difficult to get in there.
Yeah, nice. And yeah, that's pretty cool ambitions. And is there anyone you'd like to shout out, or anyone you want to thank for helping you get this far on 2B?
Definitely. First of all, I need to thank Takeouts for originally accepting me into the Teutonic Order and getting me to where I'm at, as well as Bucky Bok and Patch, because they have both helped me throughout my entire time in the Infinity Incursion and have been some fantastic friends and helped me through some hard time.
They're both awesome people.
Yeah, definitely. As well as I want to thank Emperor for being extremely gracious and letting me stay in Imperium after everything that happened with the BSB Scandal. I also want to thank all of my Elysium homies. Shout out to Low Remain, Fat MC, Gavin, Red Stoner, and a few others. I have them to thank because Elysium was like my first mega base. So just being a part of that and being a part of their history and having them be my friends has been fantastic. And finally, I also want to thank Sato for obviously responding to my comment, and us ended up working together and coming up with the Pedal LARPer video, and turned out fantastic.
Our last question, the most important question.
Oh, the best one.
What's your favorite type of cheese?
American fucking cheddar, baby.
Yes.
Best fucking cheese.
Hey.
It goes on everything. Like you can't have eggs without having some form of cheese on them, and American cheese is the best on them. If you say otherwise, you're completely wrong.
Nice.
Well, I guess that's the end of the podcast. Thank you for CirocDrip for allowing us to do this interview.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
See you guys on the next Anarchy podcast. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
See you around.
Fuck my friends, they're gone. They all left one by one. And now the summer's done. They don't need no more fun. Yeah, drive around on my own. I'm rich but my AC broke. Don't check no mail, no phone. And I tell them I'm not home. And I keep to